I'm ready when you are.
Okay. Quotes by Elsa Kennedy. Most of the emotional roadblocks, difficulties, experiences in life have been after the fact, sort of dealing with what was, and now I'm dealing with the what is. And this is called potential. It was always the potential that scared him. While he had grown alarmingly impressive at assessing situations, mentally crunching the ones and zeros to determine the possible outcomes, deep down he knew that these abstract formulas were not a guarantee, that nothing at all was ever guaranteed. There would always be some factor he didn't know about or an outside force to wreck his calculations. Still, he would rather tirelessly grind his brain cells into overdrive nonetheless. It would be easier to be alone. He knew his faults and strengths to a T and could remedy himself of almost anything that could possibly bring him harm in the airtight seal of his room. Large crowds were not acceptable, and if he had to be in one, he would always remain around the rim for an easy evacuation. Being outside meant constantly looking over his shoulder. He was even left one for anyone who came a little too close too quickly. He can feel the awkwardness of the person walking by as he stops, refusing to let anyone stay behind him once noticed. He is untrusting and a recluse by nature or by nurture, who can truly say. He knows that his behavior will cost him opportunities. It will cost him possible friendships and possible love connections, but those cannot be calculated, so he is wary of them nonetheless. Friends are kept at an arm's length. Any closer is uncomfortable and unfamiliar. He knows his behavior is immature and unbecoming. He knows that if he wants happiness, he has to shed the skin and smile more at strangers. He knows all of this and more, but knows that the potential is both beautiful and terrifying.
Powerful. Thank you.
You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. Yes, I do. You are here, healing every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, you're mending every heart. I worship you, Lord, we worship you. 'Cause you are Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Why don't you sing that? Sing it, you are.
Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are.
You are here, touching every heart. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, you're turning lives around. I worship you. Oh, I worship you.
Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God.
That is who you are. Sing it out. Sing it out. Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Yes, that is who you are. That is who you are. Oh, that is who you are. We know it, Lord. That is who you are. We know that is who you are, Jesus. That is who you are. That
Personally, I think the collaborative team approach, not only with the grant team, but with everybody else. I mean, I think the more we keep the team thought process available to the marketing department, everybody else, the easier it will be to ask for help when we need, that data or specific data tables or any information like that. So yeah, I definitely think that it's important to keep strong connections within the team, but also within the entire Love Story group.
I'm really into collaborative, especially because a lot of my background is in just relationship building, because I did so much work with donations for my college and making connections with alumni relations. So I'm extremely comfortable with like reaching out to people, and I am humbled enough to ask for money because I've done that for several years now. So when you were talking about building relationships and knowing people, I'm like, oh, I know how to do that. That's what I've done. So yeah, I think also working together is really important because that's my strength. Other things are my weakness. I want to learn from other people and I want to be able to grow.
So because that way everyone can focus on improving the quality of each individual section. And we could probably get out grants much faster that way than if we were just trying to shotgun it, or no pun intended, to all sorts of grants and might diminish the quality of that. So top of that, if everyone's pulling their own weight, it's also really good. On top of that, I really need to build up my people skills a little bit better. So I think maybe like if we're going each grant, we can maybe rotate certain like parts of the job. That would probably also work well. So I'm in favor of the collaborative, we all work together on a singular grant sort of approach.
I thought it could be stronger if we did work together. So I'm glad you guys.
Yeah, I think it's a good point too. It's just, again, the more we make the information available, the easier it will be to transition.
The love story. So he also based it on localization. There's only two types of stories in Greek drama. There's the tragedy and the divine comedy. Okay, so a tragedy is where we meet everybody. We meet them at rock bottom or nearing rock bottom, or at the beginning of spiraling downwards, right? So people who are depressed, who feel hopeless, who feel like they have an ism that that they're broken, right? So we help encourage them speak out and articulate their tragedy, because we believe that once you articulate it, you have the ability to cathartically transform through it. So the 3-act tragedy, act 1 is fear, act 2 is apathy, act 3 is judgment. And we're going to build a journaling program around those acts. And then the second phase is the divine comedy. And that one, act 1 is faith, act 2 is compassion, and act 3 is grace. And then the program after that is taking all those journal entries you've written from the tragedy to the divine comedy and then formulating it into a historical novel called The Love Story. And I really believe that the love story is the holistic view of the Star of David, which are essentially 2 triangles, one spiraling down into a tragedy, one spiraling up into a divine comedy, and to be able to capture that full spectrum of the yin yang, the light dark forces, is the love story.
Use it. I have been thinking about with the LinkedIn, trying to get to professionals, trying to get them to realize that it's okay not to be okay, and maybe that's where they can fill in that gap with the love story. I'm not really sure how we can do that. I think one of my suggestions was like making a short video of the artist talking about their pain and their heartbreak, so they can see other professionals doing the same thing that we're doing.
Inbound marketing approach and cohesion. So what the AdWords team is doing, what the Facebook team is doing, what the landing page is doing, just making sure that we're all speaking a common dialect, that we all are kind of using the same hashtags, keywords, even down to design. You know, when we start creating more graphics and campaigns, just making sure that we just have this like billboards, so to speak, that if someone sees one aspect of love stories somewhere on the internet, they'll be like, oh, I know that, no matter where they're interacting. In the next 4 months, we could get organized and like optimized. The point of this conversation is to, before we kick off campaigns, i.e. making copy and making graphics and doing all of that, we need to go through the positioning.
This is just kind of what I have in mind, is people buy the journal and that's their ticket into the showcase. And maybe it could be like a week-long thing, like every 5 days, or how many ever days, how many ever artists we can get to agree, like each day is like a 30-minute concert, and journal during it and after it. And then
about this now, utilizing the events pages for Facebook. So if we're having like a journal artist thing, instead of just doing maybe the straight up icon with their journal workshop, we could have it as a set event that does repeat.
Is like live artist-inspired journaling sessions that we could just, experienced journal artists could do as kind of like its own artistic live show.
Pinterest, we just need to create the account with the love story email.
Okay.
We have to verify the website.
I'll do that.
I have like the action steps on another document on Trello. It's on Trello.
Okay.
Try to find exactly where I fit in the strategy. So I definitely have some research I need to do personally.
All can access it. And also to dump the icons, dump that, so we all have access to it. That's extremely helpful for me, I know.
I was just wondering your reaction to any of these, and couldn't remember if anything existed. Like, I know black and like red, I understood that. So I haven't seen like the logos that already exist. Maybe none of this is necessary, but I was just thinking like in terms of content posting, just trying to put together like a palette of some sort, even if it's like primarily black, white, gray. But then what accent colors would we want to use?
But to be quite honest, this one right here that you're showing me, Sheila, is great. I like it.
Cool.
But that's just me. So I don't, because
yep. And those that are well skilled in that, they may know things that I don't, like color psychology, and complementary patterns. So I just want somebody to have, if we're a preteen, company that's really starting to grow up and want to, put a professional like visual footprint forward, then yeah.
Because
you mentioned color psychology, which is interesting, because if we were doing like categories for like keywords, that's where it would play in, definitely. Like if we were doing different logos for like, sadder keywords or more passionate ones, definitely the color psychology would play into it, especially if we're doing, I don't know, like themed stuff. It would be something to play around with.
Yeah, to put it simply, we want emo colors. We want to capture people who are angry, they're hangry, they're depressed, they're just in despair. Like, we want to bring them in while they're at rock bottom or nearing rock bottom, and offer a silver lining of hope through this. Act 1 is all about the tragedy. So, and we do shadow work. So it's dark, dark energy, yin energy. So that's just throwing it out there.